Hi everyone, different setup today. I've pulled my microphone over so that I can just talk into it while I'm sitting comfortably on my bed, not looking through my tripod. So let's try this. In today's video, I really wanted to address this topic around collecting things. In particular, for us in the luxury YouTube community, it would be collecting designer handbags, right? And lately I've been seeing some videos around accusations, for lack of a better word, that perhaps people who buy luxury items or luxury handbags are actually quite unhappy, or they are feeling a void in their lives. There's a hole in their lives. They're trying to fill it with these objects, these items, in our cases, handbags, that actually there's something perhaps wrong with us. Maybe we are suffering from an addiction or, just lots of judgment. And I will say this, I do think that shopping addiction is real, just like gambling addiction or drinking addiction, social media addiction. There are so many traps that we can fall into, and sometimes we can get into a pattern where it is blinding us and it distracts us from getting our actual stuff done throughout the day. So I'm sure that there are some people out there who are partaking in very unhealthy habits, either mindlessly shopping all the time, regretting it, feeling a great level of distress, perhaps putting themselves in financial distress, or feeling overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they bring in. You guys know that I've been very transparent over the years in my videos where I talked about how I was very, very conservative with my spending, really strict with myself, and then over the years decided to relax and enjoy and start to indulge more, and then the pendulum swung a little too hard, and I decided, oh, you know what, I think it's a little too much for me. So that's when I started to practice gratitude and balance and understand the meaning of having a lot to appreciate and enjoy already without having to chase more on the outside, and just finding my sense of balance, which is not going to be the same as everyone else. You might have 100 handbags and feel like that's perfect. You might have 5 handbags and feel that's more than enough. And so it's not about the quantity, but the feeling that is attached to what it is that you already have in your possession. So in this video, I wanted to just be really raw and honest about my thoughts around collecting things and the difference between collecting versus hoarding. There's a huge difference, actually. And if you guys didn't know, my undergraduate degree is in psychology, and then I went on to study human development in my master's program. So I am fascinated by how the brain works, emotions, decision making, motivation, how our actions turn into habits, and how that changes and transforms our lives. So I did a lot of research on this topic. I dug into psychology, but I also dug into social science. And there is a lot out there that tells us that we are wired, our brains are wired to collect things. In a nutshell, what it is that our ancestors were all hunters and gatherers. And so we go out there, we hunt for objects or things that, bring us pleasure or purpose or enjoyment, and then we collect them, we gather them. Okay, so you might collect things that are very different from me, but we all do collect something. Okay, let's be very honest with ourselves. For example, when I was a child, I remember collecting business cards. I don't know why. I think in hindsight now, if I were to analyze myself, I think I collected business cards because whenever we went somewhere, whether it was to a doctor's office or to a restaurant or anywhere that had business cards, it felt a little special to me, probably because my parents were working a lot and didn't have all that much time to spend leisurely with us. And so when we did go somewhere as a family, it meant something to me. So I wonder if those business cards represented the memory of the place that I went to. And so as a child, I collected stacks of business cards. And then when I got a little older, I started collecting trolls, those troll dolls. Gosh, when I was in middle school, I think I had at least a dozen different troll dolls. I used to line them all up on my shelf on my desk, and I would brush their hair, and I would take such good care of them. And I loved my troll dolls. Now that I think about it, it's kind of creepy, but at the time I collected troll dolls. So my question to you is, what do you collect today? Because I know what I collect today, and I'll share that in a moment. And I don't think that for me, the things that I collect are bad or toxic or unhealthy. Perhaps if it goes overboard, we can feel unhealthy, and then we'd have to rein it in. And I'll talk about that later in the video, the feelings of hoarding actually, and how it's different from pure collecting. But what do you collect? I would love to know. Leave a comment down below. At the moment, I collect plants. Yes, but you guys know in my recent videos, I talked about how I'm not going to be adding any more plants in our home because they're sprinkled all around our space and we have plenty. So now I'm learning to propagate our mama and papa plants so they can make some babies, but I won't be buying any more because it's just too much. I don't want our place to look like a greenhouse. I used to also collect books. I find great pleasure in being surrounded by books, and so I would collect all the books that I read and all the books that I wanted to read in the future. And then it just started to feel a little bit like too much. And so over the years, I have decluttered the vast majority of my books, probably 95% of them. And now as a family, we utilize the public library. And so I realized what I really wanted to collect were the stories in those books, but not the physical books themselves. Like here, these are all my library books that I have on my queue to read this month. So sometimes there's a reason why we're collecting the object. It's something under the surface, right? Like for me, I love reading. I love the feel of books. I love to be surrounded by books, but I don't need the physical books with me all the time. So once I read them, I can pass them along or return them to the library. But there are certain things that we want to keep with us, that we want to collect. Like my parents, they used to collect silver coins, and they also collected spoons, those little miniature spoons from every city and country they ever traveled to, and they displayed it in a beautiful glass case. I thought it was kind of silly because I thought there was nothing really special about spoons. I thought they were sort of dust collectors. And I still kind of feel that way, but they're not mine. They're not my collectibles. They're my parents. So if they find joy in collecting spoons because it brings them a memory of the places that they've been, then so be it. And so, of course, the big elephant in the room is collecting luxury handbags. I do have a decent sized collection of handbags, but I bristle at the word collect because a lot of times when we think of collections, we think about like stamp collections or, like I said, those silver spoon collections that my parents had or coin collections. Usually people who collect those kinds of items will keep them in pristine condition, untouched, like no one's going to lick the stamp and put it on a postcard and send it off. If they're a true collector, they will preserve those stamps, perhaps see if the value goes up or just keep them, right? Keep them in really nice condition and take good care of them. But with handbags, I personally feel like they're different because in most cases, as much as we're adding to our collection, we are also using them. I use my bags on a daily basis. You guys know I rotate my bags. I enjoy them. I use them. They get worn. They get worn down. Some of them get a little bit dirty. Like I'm using them. They're not in pristine condition, all packaged up in a Barbie box. Yes, I know people who collect Barbies as well. And so I feel that for me personally, there's a twofold purpose. One is I get the practical usage of these handbags, and two is I find them to be quite lovely. They're beautiful aesthetically and I like the feel of them, and so I keep them for myself and I collect them, right? But there's so much judgment around collecting, especially women collecting expensive things. You don't really get a lot of judgment around men collecting expensive sports cars or watches, right? What is it about handbags that causes someone to bristle? I honestly think that it's women judging women. I think for the most part, it's that. And I think we need to cut that out. Because actually, science tells us that collecting things that we enjoy bolsters our brain health. Yes, let me tell you what I found. So not only does the act of collecting things create pleasure for us and enjoyment, but also reduces stress a lot of the times, will also increase our level of appreciation for those objects, will also create some nostalgia for us, happy memories connected to those objects. Studies show that when we collect things that we actually enjoy and appreciate, we wind up naturally learning more about the process behind them, the history behind them, perhaps the quality, the value, the craftsmanship, right? For us handbag enthusiasts, we learn the ins and outs of handbags. We learn about different brands, different leathers, different styles. It becomes a whole thing. Typically, collectors will enjoy organizing, cleaning, or maintaining and taking care of those items that they collect, right? So I know I do that with my handbags. I do that with a lot of my things. I like to take good care of them. I like to store them well so that they will last a long time. And that also bolsters our brain health, the act of taking care of something, and gives us a sense of control as well. We decide what stays in our collection, what leaves our collection, what is worthy of adding, what is ready to go, right? And finally, this is the biggest piece that I wanted to talk about. Collecting oftentimes creates a beautiful sense of community and connection. Look at this YouTube community here. I always say you guys are the best. You guys watching my videos, commenting and interacting with me is what keeps me going. It is the reason why I continue to create videos even when my life gets busy. I still enjoy coming on here and making videos because of this community. So what happens to our brains actually is when we are with like-minded people, oxytocin is released. And when oxytocin is released, we feel good. It's a feeling that comes from being with someone that gets you, talking to someone who you can relate to. My daughter, when she was younger, she collected Shopkins, these little adorable rubber characters. And some of her friends were into Shopkins, and when they came over, they immediately hit it off over the Shopkins. So I know it's not that deep because it's just material things that are created by someone, and at the end of the day, they will be trashed, whether it be in your generation or future generations. You know, they wind up in the landfill. These are not things that are eternal, and they don't have like intrinsic value, but the value that you get out of it from the enjoyment, the connection, right? That is why we collect things. So I wanted to share that, and I want to talk to you about the difference between collecting and hoarding. Because as I said, collecting a lot of times increases our enjoyment and pleasure and helps us to become more discerning about what is worth having and not having and where we want to put our energy or time, money, resources, right? But let's talk about hoarding, because the reality is there is a fine line between collecting things and actually hoarding them. It can go over from one end to the other very, very quickly. And if we're not careful, we really can wind up being surrounded with stuff that is just suffocating us, right? So I think the main difference is that when we collect things, it is because we are happy and excited, and those things bring us joy, or we like to acquire them. We enjoy the process of hunting something down. We actually like maintaining them and taking care of them and organizing them, and in some cases, like handbags, using them, right? Well, hoarding is very different. Hoarding actually decreases our level of appreciation because it becomes so much that it turns into clutter, which feels overwhelming and excessive. And a lot of times hoarders will find it very difficult or impossible to throw away or discard any of their things, even though it's causing them distress. Okay, that's the key. And from a mental health standpoint, the research tells us that a lot of times hoarding is associated with depression, obsessive compulsive disorders, and psychotic disorders as well. So it's quite serious. And if you or someone you know has a hoarding problem, then you might want to seek out support either through therapy or other means. But there are 5 stages of hoarding that I learned about, and it's very simple. Starts with minimal clutter, and I feel like everybody has minimal clutter. You could argue my desk is minimally cluttered right now. It's got stuff on it. I feel like minimal clutter is just baseline. And then stage 2 is mild clutter. I have mild clutter as well, meaning that the vast majority of my spaces are pretty well organized and clean and tidy, but I have like that closet where it's just stuffed, right? My linen closet looks like that at the moment. Then you've got moderate clutter. Perhaps you have a lot of family members living with you, or you are in transition and so you've got boxes and packages and you're not quite settled yet, or you just had a new baby and you have all this baby stuff in the nursery that you don't know what to do with yet, and so it feels kind of cluttered and displaced at the moment. So that's moderate clutter, and a lot of times when we are in a certain stage in our lives, that is to be expected, right? But we probably don't want to live with moderate clutter all the time daily, especially if you are sensitive to clutter like myself. It causes me visual stress when I see clutter too much. Then you go to stage 4, which is severe clutter. This is like you've got stuff in almost every crevice of your space or your home, and it's visually unappealing. You feel at your wit's end because you're constantly having to clean around it, or you feel like you're always organizing and there's no end to it. Probably means you either have too much stuff that needs to be put away, or find a new organization system, or discard some of your stuff because they're causing more pain than actually any pleasure, right? And then we get to stage 5, which is the red alert, the extreme hoarding, the extreme clutter. And you've seen these things on TV, right? Those hoarders who seek out support, because there's a great level of shame and embarrassment oftentimes. There's a lot of physical pain as well. There's emotional pain. Sometimes hoarding is triggered by traumatic life events, stressful life events, perhaps death of a loved one or divorce or something difficult like that. Other times it is just a slow buildup and the person doesn't see how the hoarding has developed over time, and then it's almost like too late, and perhaps the shame prevents them from asking for help. It leads to sort of like this frozen state where it's very difficult to make productive decisions. It leads to oftentimes social isolation, and it certainly isn't a place of enjoyment or joy or happiness or excitement, which is very different, right, from collecting. Because a lot of times when we collect, I'm giddy. I am giddy, like, oh, a new plant, oh, a new book, oh my gosh, this gorgeous new handbag, and we want to talk about it and we want to use it or show it off or take care of it. It's very different. So I will say that if you are tough on yourself and you are susceptible to people's judgment and you feel bad or you beat yourself up for enjoying things and collecting things that actually look beautiful in your eyes or look valuable or special to you, then ignore the noise, block it out, filter it. You do you, right? Such a cliche statement, but really, you do you. We each are drawn to different things because we have different eyes, we have different preferences and our own personal tastes. And so don't let the judgment weigh you down, especially in this luxury YouTube community. I think the vast majority of the people here, especially you guys, are just so wonderful. I don't feel a lot of judgment. I don't feel a lot of toxicity at all. But I do know from conversations with many of you over the years that you feel judgment, whether it be from friends or coworkers or family members or even strangers, and it makes you feel timid about actually enjoying what you want or buying what you want. And so I would say if you know you're being reasonable and fair to yourself and you're not putting undue pressure on yourself, whether it be, financially, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, then you decide what's best for you. Now, if you do feel like you are borderline hoarding and you feel like this overwhelming suffocation, this unhappiness, this weight, then I do think that you absolutely can course correct and you can be really, really diligent about auditing what you own, putting them in categories, these are really valuable to me, these are not, right? Split them up. I've done things in the past where I have taken things and put them away for a year just to see if I really want to keep them. I have given away things to friends and family members, knowing that if I see the item in use by them, I'll feel really good. I'll feel really happy that someone's using them versus me holding on to it. Some things really are trash, so maybe it's time to let them go, recycle them, put them in the landfill, or drop them off for donations, or at a thrift shop, right? If they're still in decent condition. But know that if you are simply collecting things out of enjoyment, there are actually benefits, that it's actually good for us and that we are wired for it and that it's natural. And at the end of the day, I want to say that I collected experiences. I know it sounds corny, but I want to say I collected experiences. Even doing YouTube is an experience, being a mom is an experience, but also traveling and experiencing different cultures and trying new foods and learning new skills. Those are all experiences that can never be taken away from me. They have intrinsic value, right? In a sense, they're priceless. They're truly collectible. No one else can have the same experiences as you. So talk about unique value. But I don't think there's anything wrong with also collecting material things that happen to bring us joy, as long as we're not going overboard. Because, even things that you really enjoy, if you have too much of it, it can start to feel icky. There is a fine line. So again, I wanted to make this video because I think that luxury, handbag loving enthusiasts like us get a bad rep from each other. Sometimes the judgment comes from within the community and also from others who just don't get it. And if you're enjoying yourself and you feel good and you're happy, keep going. Your body will tell you when something's off. You will feel it. You will feel it in your gut. You will see it in your eyes. You will look around your space and go, oh my gosh, I just love everything. It's so pretty. I want to touch everything that I own. Or, oh my gosh, why do I still have this? Ugh, I gotta get rid of this. Oh my gosh, how many of these do I have? Your body will tell you. So trust that. And before I close out the video, I want to share with you the fellow YouTubers who shared some videos recently that kind of sparked my thoughts around this topic. So one was by Jessie Style, another was by Amelia Rose Closet, and the other was by Lux Purse Love. So I will link all three of their channels down below because they talked about not specifically this topic of collecting versus hoarding and the science behind it, but they did talk about various judgments and assumptions and perhaps even accusations of people who enjoy luxury handbags. And I thought each of their videos had some golden nuggets, some real truths in them. So if you are interested, definitely go check out their videos and join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.